Well, I actually want to ask you about Iran, and I want to show a clip of Trump on Fox News Sunday morning talking with Maria Bartiromo about the breakdown in talks between Iran and the U.S. And I want to get your reaction to this.
Did you have an idea that you would have to do something with regard to Iran? Because you teased it a little. You said, look, they've got to come to the table and talk. Something's going to happen.
Well, it was getting a little bit hot, and we knew they had a lot of sites, probably 3 plus the 1. But they had 3 main sites, and we knew they're going to have to either give them up. And I thought we could do it during negotiation, and we just about had it done. And then they said, we want enrichment. Enrichment doesn't mean like air conditioning, and it doesn't mean to jack up your car. Enrichment is a bad word. And they said, you got so much oil, what do you need that for? And they said, well, we need it, and I wouldn't let that happen. I think people wouldn't have understood it if I allowed that to happen. So we had a 60-day talk, and that delayed them a lot. And then we said, let's go at it. And it just worked out. And we wanted to work out also for Iran. They were beaten up. And so was Israel and all friends. They were both very tight. We call it the 12-day war. That was an intensive war. But the thing that I wanted to do, and I've said it on your show, if you look back 30 years ago or 25 years, we've been doing your show a long time and nobody like you. But you look back at the early interviews, I would say Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. They've wanted this for years, and they were weeks away from getting it. And those pilots went in there with those beautiful planes and the most sophisticated bombs anywhere in the world. Think of it, they can go 30 stories deep into granite. Who would think that's even possible? And they did obliterate it, it turned out. Then we had to suffer the fake news, where the fake news in CNN and the New York Times was saying, well, maybe it wasn't as good as Trump said. Maybe it wasn't totally obliterated, but it was destroyed, but not, just horrible. And I could see it happening. And they tried to build that into a story. And then it turned out, no, it was obliterated like nobody's ever seen before.
Okay. So a lot to unpack. What are your thoughts on this war? Who do you think planned it? Do you think the U.S. was involved in planning it? Based on the timeline, the evolution of the talks?
Yeah, let me just say a little bit about obliterate, okay? Comes from the Latin word. Literale has nothing to do with literature. It means to wipe out. It means to erase, okay? Adding force, okay? So that's what he said from the outset. It wasn't true. So he's going to say it 5 more times, and it still won't be true. And the intelligence community, at least the Defense Intelligence Agency, came up with a very preliminary but very telling things. No, they weren't obliterated. And even they weren't obliterated. And even the head of the IAEA, that clown whose name is Grossi, and who is in the pocket of the West, even he said, we don't even know where that highly enriched uranium is. Maybe we destroyed some of it. Maybe it was. It's a clown show, okay? Now, the big thing is they're pushing against an open door. Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. Well, the intelligence community said that they weren't working on them. They started saying that in 2007, saying back at the end of 2003, Iran stopped working on a nuclear weapon, and that there was a fatwa, a religious edict. Don't work on a nuclear weapon. That still obtains till today, or at least till last week, okay? Now, fatwa, people say, oh, what's a fatwa? Well, I'll tell you, people come out of a Christian or a Catholic tradition, encyclical. Oh, it's an encyclical. Encyclical, right? Yeah, we're supposed to share money with the poor. Give me a break, okay? Well, the fatwa is different. So it's hard to wrap your mind around. A fatwa is taken seriously in Islam, okay? So will they change? I don't know. Are they being provoked to change? You bet that. You bet you're sweet. Yeah, they are. Now, why? The most recent thing is the president of Israel. The top guy has said, look, it doesn't matter what Trump said about him telling us not to assassinate the supreme leader. We tried our damnedest. We thought we had him, but damn, he escaped. But we'll get him next time for sure, And then did you see that in the New York Times? No. But it's right there. It's right there. Okay. So here we have the Israelis. I thought I would never be surprised, but the Israelis chutzpah. But here's the Israeli president saying, no. We want to get him. We thought we had him. We got the others, but we'll get him next time. Now, what's he trying to do? He's trying to provoke the Iranians. Okay. What could be more provocation than knowing that they were trying to kill their supreme leader? And I was on Al Jazeera today. I try to go on Al Jazeera because I think some of the Iranians listen to Al Jazeera. And I said, they tried to provoke Trump into doing more in Ukraine. He's a cool, calm, and collected customer, and he's winning. So I would draw an analogy here with the leaders in Iran. With all due respect, they need no advice from me, but if they remain calm, cool, and collected, they are winning, okay? They don't need to provoke or to respond to this provocation. Actually, they've issued a fatwa against the president of Israel now, and Trump and Netanyahu as well. But that doesn't matter. Just don't rise to the bait, I said. And I think that their equities, you asked, how it all came out. The way I put it together is that we always thought that the Israelis would try to mousetrap Trump into a war against Iran. Now, we thought that since Iran has these supersonic or hypersonic missiles and they have a military that just won't quit, that the Israelis are smart enough to realize that, and therefore they won't start a war with Iran because they can't really depend on the U.S. coming to its aid. Well, we were wrong in that supposition, but we were right in terms of what the Iranians have in terms of retaliation. So what I think happened was on the 12th in the evening when the Israelis started, some of the neocons in Trump's entourage took them down to the situation room, right? And say, "Oh, we got something special TV for you, Mister. Watch this. The Israelis have dominance over in the air, and look at them go through the. Look at them, the rockets, all that stuff. It's the end of Iran. They're gonna be, well, let's say it, obliterated, right? So Trump goes to bed Friday night, right? Or no, Thursday night. Gets up Friday night. This is excellent. I knew all about it. I know everything. Cool.
Right.
Okay. Now, 5 hours later, when the Iranians fixed their air defense that was down for 8 hours, okay, and started retaliating, and then Trump said, "Well, I didn't know a thing about this, and then push came to shove. The Iranians were winning. Now, who would have thought the Iranians might win? Well, we would have thought that's why we thought Israel would have attacked them. Well, they started winning, and that's when Trump said, "Okay, now what can I do? I'll try to obliterate these nuclear sites, and then I'll say to Israel, look, you don't have to obliterate these things, and don't even think of using your nuclear weapons. We got you covered here, okay? But we need a ceasefire because you're getting destroyed. You're getting your rear end kicked. Okay, we'll have a ceasefire." Now, the ceasefire is not going to last very long, but the Iranians are in a very strong position, the more so since I think they're finally going to go to Putin and Moscow and say, "Okay, you offered us all that aid and we turned you down because we thought we could deal with the West. Okay, all right, would you give it to us now?" Like real sophisticated AAA and air defense missiles and so forth. So I think with Russia and China also chipping in here, even though they don't have precise mutual defense treaties with Iran, they do have treaties, and they have a big stake in what happens to oil and gas coming out of that part of the world. So I think there'll be a little kind of a hiatus here until people try to figure out what to do. The bug in the ointment here, the fly in the ointment, I would say, is that Netanyahu is in deep kimchi. Okay, the old comic book says he's in trouble deep. Okay, why? Well, you know why. He's going to go to jail. He's going to go to jail if he loses his position in the government. And 2 days before he did this thing, he almost lost that position because there was almost a no confidence vote. Okay, so he's, this is a guy who will do anything to avoid going to jail with his wife. Okay, now you say, "Oh, come on, you're exaggerating, McGovern." Well, how about genocide?
Right.
I mean, a guy who can do genocide. And do you think he would shy away from using his nuclear weapons in extremis? Well, I can't be sure of that. And I think maybe Trump and his more sentient advisors said, look, let's get this thing knocked down. Let's get a ceasefire here. And let's make sure that Netanyahu doesn't even be tempted to pick out his nuclear weapons and even threaten, much less use them against Iran. That would be the end of a lot of stuff, including the world economy.
Huh. So you think he's kind of being almost like a peace negotiator?
No, I didn't. No, you mean Trump? No, I
Yeah.
just think he saw the realities. He said
Okay.
his ally Israel, as he put Israel is not our ally. There's no mutual defense treaty with Israel.
Right.
And here's a little factoid for you. During the war in 1973, when the Arabs, the only time the Arabs actually did attack Israel, okay, and the Israelis finally prevailed with lots of help from us, Henry Kissinger got it into his head, and I know this personally because I was at active duty at the time, the agency. He got into his head, hey, let's offer the Israelis a mutual defense treaty. That way, no Arab is going to even think of attacking Israel again like they just did. And so they did. They broached that to the Israelis. And you know what the reaction was? And a friend of mine was involved in these feelers. Okay, the reaction was, "Oh, isn't that sweet? Oh, thank you so much, but thanks, but no thanks. We don't need a mutual defense treaty." Okay, well, why could that be? Why could that be, Katie? Well, number one, a treaty requires mutually, internationally agreed upon borders. Israelis didn't want any part of that. It also requires that each party, if they're going to take off after where their neighbor, Israel, going to take off to Syria or Iraq, it's supposed to be by your leave. You're supposed to tell your treaty partner what you're going to do. And the Israelis really love to ask for forgiveness after and not ask for permission before. So, and then at the same time, when this was turned down by the Israelis, there was this little joke in Washington. It's not really a joke because it sort of reflects reality. And somebody said, hey, let's make Israel the 51st state. And then the reaction.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know the answer to that, right?
No, what?
No. Why? That's terrible. The lobby didn't want that. And the answer was, then we would only have 2 senators.
Oh, right. Yeah, that is.
So anyway, there's no defense pact. It's just this kind of indoctrination, this weird defense of Netanyahu by the president in one of his social media things. Just yesterday, was it the day before? The guy's deranged, and that's important. I mean, no one can count on what Trump's going to do. That's why the Russians are being really, really careful, okay? They see an opportunity here, depending on which way Trump goes. He seems to be getting the hell out of Europe. There was no mention in the NATO communique saying that Ukraine has a, irreversible right to join NATO. Whoa, that was the big deal last time, just 1 year ago.
Right.
Ukraine was mentioned about 36 times last year in the communique. How many times this year? 3 times. So he's getting out of Ukraine, and Putin doesn't want to risk that. So he's treating him with
Kid gloves.
very gingerly. Yeah, kid gloves is the word. And he hopes that this is the last chance that somebody better than Biden, can you believe better than Biden? Well, yeah, easy. That's easy. But at least they're talking to each other. And that's the only good news I can impart. The difference between Biden and this crowd is there are active contacts. And when Putin calls up Trump answers the phone. And the same is when Lavrov calls Rubio. And that happened, of course, several times just over the last several weeks.
If you're watching this later, and you want to see the full interview with Ray McGovern, which I know that you do, he has great stories. You can do that at patreon.com/The Katie Halper Show. Again, that is patreon.com/The Katie Halper Show.